What did it really look like when Americans actually talked to each other before the 1980s? Before texting, emailing, or scrolling, people sent messages through wires, paper, machines, and even other people. Each method shaped how families, lovers, and businesses kept in touch every single day. So, can you still hear the click of the dial? The voice of a stranger on the other end of the line? These are 10 forgotten ways Americans communicated before the 1980s, and the first one used to land on your doorstep in a yellow envelope. Picture this. You're in your kitchen, around 1955. The radio's humming, the coffee's still on the stove, and then there's a knock at the door. A boy on a bicycle in a flat cap hands you a yellow envelope. Inside, just a few words, all capital letters, no commas, no periods, just the word "stop" where the period should be. That was a Western Union telegram. For more than 100 years, this was how Americans got the news that just couldn't wait. A wedding, a death, a baby arriving, a soldier coming home from the war. Western Union charged 5 cents per word back in 1920, so people learned to chop every sentence down to the bone. Arrived Chicago, stop. Send money urgent, stop. Mother ill come home, stop. Today, you'd send the same thing in a text with 3 crying emojis and a voice note tagged on. The whole moment, the boy, the bike, the yellow paper, gone. The very last American telegram was sent on January 27, 2006. But tell me honestly, when was the last time you got a message that made your hands shake before you even opened it? Number 2. This one's gonna make some of you smile. The party line phone. You'd pick up the receiver in your kitchen, ready to call your aunt down the road, and there'd already be someone on it. Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses down, gossiping about the preacher's brand new Buick, and you'd just wait. Or worse, you'd cover the mouthpiece, hold your breath, and listen. Yeah, you heard things you weren't supposed to hear. A party line was a single phone wire shared between 2, 4, sometimes 10 households on the same road. Out in the country, especially before the late 70s, that was just how people had phones. Each home had its own ring pattern. 2 short rings and 1 long one, that was you. So you knew when to pick up. It taught manners. It taught patience. It taught you which neighbor had a drinking problem and which one was sneaking out at night. Today, your phone is in your pocket, private, locked behind a face scan. Nobody listening in, unless you count the apps. So here's a question for you. Did your family have a party line? And do you still remember the ring pattern that meant, "This one's for us"? Number 3, the switchboard operator. Imagine picking up your phone, and before you can call anyone, a woman's voice comes through. "Number, please?" That was Mabel, or Edna, or Dorothy. Sitting in a room full of women in headsets, plugging cables into a huge wooden board with hundreds of little holes in it. You'd say, "Get me Mr. Ralph down at the hardware store," and click, click, plug, plug, she'd connect you straight through. These women knew everything. They knew who was sick. They knew who was having an affair. They knew who hadn't paid the phone bill in 3 months. In small towns, the operator was the unofficial mayor, the unofficial newspaper, and the unofficial 911, all rolled into one person. Today, when you call somebody, an algorithm routes the signal. Cold, silent, quick. No number please? No friendly voice. No human in the middle who knew your grandmother's birthday. So tell me, can you imagine, in a real emergency, hearing a familiar voice say your name before she even asked what was wrong? Number 4, the pneumatic tube. If you ever walked into a department store like Marshall Field's in Chicago, or a bank in Cleveland, or a newsroom in New York before the late 70s, you saw them. Glass tubes running along the ceiling, snaking through the walls, with little brass canisters whooshing through them at terrifying speed. You'd hand the cashier your money for a new pair of gloves. She'd stuff the bills into a canister, twist the lid, drop it into a slot, and whoosh, gone. Up to the second-floor cashier's office, where someone counted the cash and sent your change back the same way. Wanamaker's department store in Philadelphia put in the first in-store pneumatic tube system way back in 1880, and they kept running for nearly 100 years. In New York City, the post office moved letters underground through pneumatic tubes from 1897 all the way to 1953. Today, most of those tubes are sealed up behind drywall in old buildings. The whoosh is gone, replaced by a little Apple Pay beep. But ask yourself, when was the last time a payment made you smile just because of the sound it made? Number 5, the handwritten letter. You remember this one, the smell of the paper, the little blue lines, the way your wrist ached after a full page. The way your mother used to write, "Dear Aunt Helen," with that fancy loop on the H that nobody else in the family could copy. You'd sit at the kitchen table, maybe with a cup of tea, maybe with a record playing in the next room, and you'd put your whole self into a single page. You picked the right pen. You crossed things out. You started over when you misspelled "definitely" for the third time in a row. Then you sealed it. You licked the stamp. You walked down to the mailbox at the corner and you put up the little red flag. And you waited, sometimes for weeks. Today, a text takes 2 seconds, and it disappears into a flood of other texts within the hour. Nobody saves them. Nobody keeps them in a shoebox under the bed for 40 years. So I have to ask you, do you still have any old letters tucked away somewhere? And if you pulled them out tonight, whose handwriting would you miss the most? Number 6, the payphone. Remember the booths? Glass on 3 sides, a folding door that squeaked, a little light that flickered on when you stepped inside. Or later, just a metal box bolted to the wall outside a gas station, with the cord all twisted up and the receiver covered in greasy fingerprints. You'd dig in your pocket for a dime, then later, a quarter. You'd drop it in, clink, clunk, and you'd hear that beautiful dial tone. If you were a kid trying to reach your mom from the YMCA, you'd dial collect and shout your name fast before the operator cut you off. "Mom, it's Timmy, come get me!" And she'd refuse the charges, hang up, and come pick you up. That was the system. That was the whole plan. There used to be over 2 million payphones in America. Today, there are barely a few thousand left. You see one in a movie, and it looks like a museum piece. So tell me honestly, have you ever tried to explain to a kid how a payphone worked? And did they look at you like you grew up on the moon? Number 7, and this one is a whole world. CB radio. In the mid-70s, after the 1973 oil embargo and the new 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, truckers needed a way to warn each other about gas shortages, speed traps, and police roadblocks. So they grabbed their Citizens Band radios, and they invented their own language. "Breaker 19, this here's Big Bear. You got your ears on, good buddy?" Cops were smoky. Going fast was putting the hammer down. Your nickname on the air was your handle. And by 1977, the FCC had issued over 11 million CB licenses. It wasn't just truckers anymore. Housewives in Ohio had CBs. Dads on family road trips had them mounted on the dashboard. Kids had them in their bedrooms, talking to strangers 3 counties over. The 1977 movie Smokey and the Bandit turned the whole thing into a national obsession. Today, drivers have apps that ping for speed traps. Same idea, but no voices. No good buddy. No convoy. So tell me, did you ever have a CB handle? And do you still remember the one you used? Number 8, the folded note passed in class. Oh, come on. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Lined notebook paper, folded into a tiny little square, sometimes shaped like a football, sometimes like one of those fortune teller things that flapped open in your fingers, passed from desk to desk, right under the teacher's nose. Do you like Jason? Check yes or no. That was a love confession. That was a friendship breakup. That was the 7th grade equivalent of breaking news. And the whole class was the network. Becky to Stephanie to Lisa to Karen to busted. Mrs. Anderson grabs it right out of Karen's hand and reads it out loud to the entire room. Today, kids just tap a snap. It disappears in 3 seconds. Nobody else ever sees it. But ask yourself, do you remember the very first note someone ever slipped onto your desk? And do you think it'd still be tucked into your yearbook somewhere if you went looking tonight? Number 9, ham radio. Long before the internet, there was a group of Americans, thousands of them, sitting in basements, in garages, in tiny back bedroom shacks, with huge radios glowing with vacuum tubes. And they were talking to strangers in Brazil, in Japan, in the Soviet Union, in the middle of the Cold War, while presidents were warning everyone about World War III. Your Uncle Roy could pick up his microphone, twist a knob, and chat with a guy in Moscow about the weather. Ham radio operators had to earn a real FCC license. They had to learn Morse code. They built huge antennas in the backyard, much to the annoyance of their wives. And during hurricanes, blizzards, blackouts, when the phones went dead and the power went out, the hams were the ones still talking. They saved lives. Today, of course, you can FaceTime someone in Tokyo while sitting on the toilet. No license required, no vacuum tubes. But tell me honestly, does sending a heart emoji to Tokyo feel the same as scribbling down a stranger's voice from across the ocean in a leather notebook? Yeah, I didn't think so. And finally, number 10, the mimeograph. If you went to elementary school in America before the late 70s, you know this smell. The teacher would hand out a worksheet, and the paper would be slightly damp, slightly warm, and the ink would be this beautiful, dreamy purple. And you'd press your face right into it, right at your desk, sniffing it like it was a brand new perfume. Every kid did it. Every single one. That was the mimeograph, or its cousin, the spirit duplicator. Before Xerox machines were cheap, this was how schools, churches, and small offices made copies. You'd type up a master sheet, attach it to a drum, crank a handle by hand, and out came purple inked papers, one by one. The smell was the chemical in the ink. Probably not great for us, but it was the smell of Friday spelling tests, the smell of church bulletins on a Sunday, the smell of birthday party invitations for the whole class. Today, copies come out of a laser printer, bone dry, scentless, soulless, no purple, no fumes, no magic. So tell me, can you still smell it, just from me describing it? Yeah, me too. So those are 10 forgotten ways Americans communicated before the 1980s. The telegram, the party line, the operator, the pneumatic tube, the handwritten letter, the payphone, the CB radio, the folded note, the ham radio, and the mimeograph. Each one had a sound, a smell, a ritual, a weight. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, which one of these do you miss the most? And which one did I forget? Maybe your family had something I didn't mention. The church prayer chain, the note tucked under the milk bottle for the milkman, the chalkboard at the corner diner. I want to know. And if this took you back, even for just a few minutes, do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell so the next nostalgia trip lands right in your feed. You notice something running through all 10 of these? Every single one of them had a wait. A wait for the telegram boy to pump his bike up your street. A wait for the party line to clear so you could make your call. A wait for the operator to plug in the right cable. A wait for the brass canister to come shooting back down the tube with your change. A wait for the letter to cross 3 states in a mailbag. A wait for the dial tone after the dime dropped. A wait for the trucker on channel 19 to come back on the air. A wait for the folded note to make it from row 3 to row 7. A wait for the ham radio signal to skip off the atmosphere and find a stranger in Moscow. A wait for the teacher to crank the mimeograph drum one more time so your copy came out. That wait was the whole point. Not the inconvenience, the point. Because in that wait, something happened to you. You thought about what you were saying. You rehearsed the sentence. You crossed out the wrong word. You chose the right stamp. You held your breath. You hoped. You ached. You changed your mind and then changed it back. The wait was the part that turned a message into a memory. Today, nothing waits. The text leaves your thumb before the thought even finishes forming in your head. The voice note recorded while you were brushing your teeth. The email sent at 2 in the morning that you regret by sunrise. The DM. The reply all. The thumbs up. The thumbs down. Everything is instant. Everything is cheap. Everything is forgotten by Wednesday. And here is the part that should sit with you. The people on the other end, your mother, your sister, your old best friend, they felt the weight too. They knew that yellow envelope cost 5 cents a word, so every word in it mattered. They knew Aunt Helen sat down at her kitchen table for a full hour to write that page, so they read it twice. They knew you carried that dime in your pocket all morning, waiting for the right moment to step into the booth and call them. The wait built trust. The wait built weight. The wait built love. We didn't lose the telegram. We didn't lose the party line. We didn't lose the operator or the pneumatic tube or the purple worksheet. What we lost is the wait. The pause between the wanting to say it and the actually saying it. That pause used to be where the meaning lived. And maybe that's why, when you walk past an old payphone booth, or you find a shoebox of letters in the back of a closet, your chest goes a little tight. It's not the object. It's the time the object took. Time you can't buy back at any price. Maybe that's the real lesson in all 10 of these. Slow communication wasn't a flaw of the past. It was a feature. A feature we threw away to save 30 seconds. A feature that is gone now. Truly gone.
The handwritten letter, the payphone, the CB radio, the folded note, the ham radio, and the mimeograph. Each one had a sound, a smell, a ritual, a weight. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me. Whisper, which one of these do you miss the most, and which one did I forget? Maybe your family had something I didn't mention. The church prayer chain. The note tucked under the milk bottle for the milkman. The chalkboard at the corner diner. I want to know. And if this took you back, even for just a few minutes, do me a favor. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell so the next nostalgia trip lands right in your feed. Warmly, until next time. Thanks for sitting with me a while.